Kaduna state government declares NLC president and his colleagues wanted over labor protest in the state, which the government says is an act of sabotage. And President Muhammadu Buhari seeks the approval of the National Assembly for the implementation of external borrowing of $6.18 billion in the 2021 Appropriations Act. We'll give you details of that in a moment. Hello everyone, and welcome to Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye at Channels Television's global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's begin tonight by telling you that the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, has today dissolved the state government cabinet and has asked permanent secretaries in the different ministries to take charge of various ministries immediately. Some of the appointments he made was after about 48 hours when he was sworn in for a second term in 2019, and later he swore 17 commissioners in July of that year. President Muhammadu Buhari is seeking the approval of the National Assembly for the implementation of external borrowing of $6.18 billion in 2021 Appropriations Act. At a resumed session of the National Assembly, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, read a letter from President Buhari seeking the resolution of the National Assembly for a new borrowing of 2.343 trillion naira to part finance the budget deficit of 5.602 trillion naira in the 2021 budget. President Buhari further stated that the 2021 budget provides for 4.686 trillion as new borrowing to part finance the 2021 fiscal deficit, of which 50% is specified as new external borrowing. The loan is to be sourced from a combination of sources, namely multilateral and bilateral lenders, the international capital market through the issuance of Eurobonds. The new external borrowing is to fund specific capital projects in the 2021 budget, which included power, agriculture, transportation, health, rural development, education, defense, and water resources. Before we go into our conversation for tonight, is about what is happening in Kaduna State and what may become a ripple effect in some other states. We look deeply tonight into this situation in Kaduna State. But before we get into that, we have more stories for you on our political roundup.
Working together in collaboration.
Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami has confirmed that the federal government has received £4.2 million of the looted funds associated with the family members of former Delta State Governor James Ibori. In the statement by the Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations to the Attorney General of the Federation, Dr. Umar Gwandu, Mr. Malami says the amount has been credited into the designated federal government account with Naira equivalent value of the amount as of May the 10th, 2021. The governor of Enugu State has been strategizing with the Inspector General of Police on the security of the state, and after their meeting today, the Inspector General of Police has launched Operation Restore Peace. The Enugu State governor says his administration will provide every needed support for the realization of the said goal.
The first change in the security narrative of Southeast in the coming days.
The Ogun State Governor, Dakwa Abiodun, has ordered the immediate suspension of one of his political appointees, Mr. Abidemi Rufai, who is said to have been arrested in New York over alleged unemployment benefits fraud in the United States. Governor Abiodun says the news is disturbing and is restating his commitment to an open, transparent, accountable, and morally upright administration, and will not condone any acts bordering on criminality by anyone. A bill for an act to provide for the procedure and ceremony for transition and assumption of office of the President and Vice President by the President-elect and Vice President-elect, and to facilitate the handover process by the outgoing President and Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill also stipulates that the President, upon assumption of office, shall appoint ministers into his cabinet over a specified period of time. The British government says it is committed to partnering Nigeria in tackling the security challenges, specifically to help guarantee the smooth conduct of the 2023 general elections. The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Katrina Lang, made the pledge on behalf of the government of the United Kingdom in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, after a meeting with Governor Nyesom Wike. The diplomat says the 2023 general elections is not only crucial to Nigeria, but important for the advancement of democracy in Africa.
And let's get into the business of tonight, everyone. It is the second day of the Nigerian Labour Congress 5-day warning strike action and protest against the plans of the Kaduna state government to right-size workers in the state. Today, the protesters took to the streets just like they did yesterday with banks, airport, filling stations shut down. The workers converged on the popular NEPA roundabout in the Kaduna capital to continue the day 2 of their protests.
The struggle! The struggle!
That was happening. There was another set of protesters who are not members of the Labour Congress bearing placards. They also came out in support of the government's action. Not long after, the protests turned violent as thugs in their numbers start to attack the workers as the thugs invaded the area and started throwing stones and other dangerous weapons at them. The security operatives engaged the thugs with tear gas in order to disperse them. The attack forced many of the protesters to scamper to safety. Afterwards, normalcy returned. The security operatives were able to disperse the thugs, but the incident left some of the protesters wounded. State government has declared the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Mr. Ayuba Waba, wanted. And this is the reason the governor, Nasir El-Rufai, gave for declaring Mr. Waba and some of his colleagues wanted. Take a listen to Governor El-Rufai.
This act, and we want him. We will bring him to justice. We are looking for him. He should report to the nearest police station or report to us. He will be prosecuted for economic sabotage. There is no grounds for compromise. They have used their last ultimate weapon. It will not change anything. We will not change our position. And that's it.
You heard the governor, Nasir El-Rufai. From what the government is explaining, they said they have the reasons for wanting to right size, because according to the government, they said the population of those who are going compared to those who are benefiting the majority in the state, they're doing this in the majority, the interest of the majority of the people of the state. But Labour does not quite agree with it. And so the government declares this situation or this action of the Labour as an act of sabotage and declared Mr. Ayuba Waba, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, wanted himself and his colleagues for what they call act of sabotage. Tonight, let's speak with Mr. Ayuba Waba, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, who joins us from Kaduna. Thank you so much, President of the Labour Congress, Mr. Waba, for joining us tonight. You've been declared wanted, and you've been advised to report to the police or report to the government. Have you done any of that?
Well, thank you very much, Akin. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Let me say clearly that the governor lacks power under the Constitution, under the Trade Union Act, and even under the Miscellaneous Act he's quoting to declare any offender wanted. I say so because under the Nigerian Constitution and Trade Union Act, the NLC and trade unions have a fundamental right. One, to protest, to strike, lock out, assemble peacefully, especially in such a situation where workers are sacked in large number without respecting the provision of Section 20 of the Labour Act. Section 20 of the Labour Act prescribed clearly that before any employer or government contemplates redundancy or sack of workers, first, the unions shall be notified of 1, the reason, 2, the scope, and 3, there must be a discussion to put the facts on the table. I want to put it to you that this provision has been violated. And therefore, if there is anybody that is supposed to be brought before the law, is the governor that has violated the sanctity of our labor law. So clearly speaking, in fact, today, the event of today, which you are saying, he came to the NEPA roundabout, we were there. In fact, the distance between where he was and where we are addressing the workers, because we are almost completed the rally for the day, we are taking prayers and maybe announcements. He came and entered the office. We learned he climbed up to see the crowd, and later the talks, higher talks, don't say counter protest, higher talk. And don't forget that in the morning, as early as 6 o'clock, I gave all the security agencies information about that government have higher talks. The contractor to those talks is Alhaji Hassan Goska from Hayam Banki in Kao, who is a car dealer, and we have it on clips. We have shared the clips with all the security agencies. I called all the offices this morning of security operatives in Kaduna and gave them this information before the talks came. They came
Mr. Waba,
because of our number.
So
Hello?
I would like to ask, just a moment, Mr. Waba. All right.
It's important you hear this. They came to try to attack the workers, throwing stones. We apprehended 2, handed over to the police. And Nemesis caught up with them. As those at the back of them were throwing stone, and our workers were following them. They hit one of them with a stone, and he fell down on the spot and died. So clearly speaking, the police, I think, must have taken the cops. And you can see and find out that these are higher talks. Our protests have been peaceful. NLC is known and trade unions for peaceful protests. And that's why every member has a cap, has a shirt, has a tag indicating his union that he came from. This is very sad. I can say that clearly, this is a crude abuse of power. And therefore, clearly speaking, the issue is an issue that we will follow up to the latter, because such a crude abuse of power cannot be allowed to go unchecked. If not, then we are gravitating through anarchy
quickly,
and also making sure that people are just thrown out of their jobs.
A few housekeeping quickly, Mr. Waba. You mentioned the names of some people here. I would like you to provide evidence, because I wouldn't want you on this platform to mention people's name without having evidence because of legal issues. Do you have evidence to the claims that you have made as relating to the person whom, according to you, is a contractor who led the thugs?
Yes, we have the clip. We have shared this clip with the DSS. We have shared with the police since 6 in the morning. We had the conversation about those that were contracted, where the money will be shared, and what they are expected.
Let's take a breather. But when we come back, we'll be asking Mr. Waba some of the grounds on which the government says it wants to right size, the reasons the government gave. Will the Labour be sitting down with the government? Because government said he's not going back. Other people are also weighing in this matter. Where will this end? It's a 5-day warning strike, and the second day, and it's gotten bloody. We'll come back and discuss more, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back to the conversation with the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Mr. Ayuba Waba, whom today the government of Kaduna State declared wanted, and his colleagues for what it described as an act of sabotage. Let's get back to Mr. Waba now. Thank you so much, Mr. Waba, for your time. I raised that flag because you mentioned specifically names of people which I wouldn't want a situation where it could be libelous. But you said you have evidence. But the second thing I wanted you to clarify quickly is that you said one person dropped dead. Who is this person? Is it a member of the NLC? Is it a member of your group or the member of the other side?
One of the thugs, because they were using stone to throw at our members, and our members were also chasing them. So those in the front trying to run, the person at the back tried to throw a stone and it hit one of them. So the person fell there. We left him there. We don't know whether he's dead or not, but he fell there. He's not among us. I think he's less than 16 years of age. He's one of the thugs, and I think the police can be able to report on that.
Mr. Waba, you understand today that nurses from grade level 14 have been dismissed for not reporting to office and, according to the government, for participating in what they describe as unlawful strike. What's your reaction to that? And there is also a warning that staff and lecturers of KASU, that's the Kaduna State University, are to report to work, and daily attendance must be submitted to the head of service or the SSG. What's your reaction to the sack that the government announced after this evening?
Well, this have continued because I told you initially that 21,000 workers, teachers that were sacked 2 years ago, were not paid. Of recent, 7,000 local government workers, 7,000 workers comprising of about 2,000 local government workers, 1,700 primary care agency workers, and 4,000 workers from SUBEP, that's the primary healthcare agency. All of those people were served letters. None of them have been paid. And therefore, those are the issues that we said they are crude abuse of power. In industrial relation, and particularly in the provisions of the act that deals with workers, there are very clear provisions that allow workers to go on strike and withdraw their services, especially in this type of situation. It's not illegal, and I've quoted the laws. The Trade Union Act provides for that very clearly. All of this is crude abuse of power. And basically, people should know that nothing lasts forever, because whatever goes around also comes around. So what I want to say is that this is a crude abuse of power, and I think all Nigerians must condemn all of this, because in labor we believe in solidarity, we believe in respect for the rule of law, and we believe that human beings should be seen as human beings with dignity. There must be dignity in labor, not people you can use and just dump or discard. This is the situation, and that is why we are even protesting. To demolish or to sack workers at will is something that must be contested. That's what we are contesting. So apart from condemning, I assure you that the National Executive Council, you are aware that we took 2 levels of decision. First is the 5-day action here, and the second one is also to call on the Nigerian state and the Nigerian people to try to expose some of these extremists, because I can say that this is an extremist. Clearly, it's an extremist in this regard, because no governor in the present dispensation have sacked 7,000 workers without labor challenging. And I can say that no governor to date have sacked this number of workers without respecting the provision of the law.
All right, Mr. Waba, if you look at what has happened today, because the government has also announced the position of those who, some of the nurses and those who have been sacked today. But if for a moment, one of the things that, if you can clarify to us, one of the things that you said was that the government did not sit down with labor to explain the process and the procedure is going to take in doing this. If the government today says it wants to sit down with you, would you rethink your strategy or this strike action?
Every state we had issues with them, we will write to the chief executive demanding for social dialogue. That we have done with Kaduna. Many states we have visited. In fact, before the action commences, they will invite us to discuss the issue and resolve it. And the MOU or communique or the processes at the end of the meeting will make it public to everybody, and the workers will be aware of it. Since we arrived here, that opportunity was not there. In fact, I had the head of service and others saying that we are invited. That is false. Nobody was invited. I can say that very clearly, unambiguously, and therefore, labor is always ready to dialogue. The provision of the law was violated. The provision of the law said, before you declare redundancy, even before you contemplate Section 20, it has 3 items. Item 1 is that labor shall where even you don't have labor, the representative of the worker shall be invited and discuss, one, the reason for the redundancy. The fact will be put on the table. Two, the scope of the redundancy. And B item says, even when you are to do redundancy, it will be last to come into the service that will be the first to go. And the third item of it is that redundancy benefit will be discussed. At the time you are handing over the letter of engagement, his check will also be ready, including his severance package that will be given to him. In all of this that has happened, this law has been violated with impunity. That is why we are fighting for. Somebody has worked for 30 years.
So let me get your reaction also, because the government said today that what you have done, and you and the labor union and your colleagues, is an act of sabotage. The allegations of forceful removal of people from public offices. There's a shutdown of the airport. There is a shutdown of hospitals, where lives and lives of people, of patients, are at stake. In fact, there is an allegation that a year-old oxygen was removed from a year-old that is in intensive care. These are some of the allegations raised by the government. Did any of your workers force people to leave their work in the public service, in the public sector? Because according to them, there is no power, there is no water, their livelihood has suddenly been shut out in Kaduna State. And these are the allegations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me...
So I told you earlier that there are other people who are protesting. Some of those who said they like the action of the government and they do not like the protest that is going on. Let me allow you to listen to one of the leaders of that other side. Take a listen to him.
Strike, we have nothing to do with NLC. NLC has nothing to do with Kaduna States. The issue of strike has affected many masses in the states. Especially, I can give an example. There's no electricity in the town now. We are buying a jerrycan of water at the rate of 200, 300 naira. Why all this softness? Why all these things? Please, I'm calling on the NLC president to work out of Kaduna State. He should leave Kaduna State. We don't want him here. The people on strike are suffering. Those that are on strike are suffering. The business people are suffering.
All right, you heard one of those who say they do not support the labor. Let me allow Mr. Waba to come back. He's reconnected with us now to answer to some of the allegations the state government has raised against the Nigerian Labour Congress.
First, let me say that do any Nigerian agree that workers in thousands should be thrown out of their jobs, abusing the provisions of the law? They also have families. Workers won't work to earn a living. They are not slaves. And therefore, under the law and under every jurisdiction where such things happen, workers have a right to withdraw their services. What we did was to announce withdrawal of services, and we gave notices. So I think the blame should actually go to the governor. Let me also say that no person or no worker will go and forcefully try to remove oxygen. That's the part of the propaganda. We cannot be outside by propaganda, because it was in the full fledged of the media. Even when we passed the state secretariat yesterday, ask the media, the secretariat was open, nobody was inside. So clearly speaking, we are not new to this type of propaganda. And everybody knows that this particular state is full of propaganda. So clearly speaking, you can take the two sides of the story. Go to the streets. Many of the news agencies today, both print and electronic, also went to the streets to take people's opinion. Don't rely on only one. So basically, this is what has happened. What we have done is allowed under the law. In the best economies around the world, workers withdraw their services when such things happen. It doesn't only apply to Nigeria. Can any Nigerian applaud the fact that more than 20,000 workers within the last 2 years have been thrown out of their job? No pension, no gratuity, no payment for their terminal benefit, and school fees increase. Those are the children of the poor that are in those schools, and they are thrown out of those schools. Is anybody in support of that?
So let me, before we lost that connection, before we lost that connection, thank you for responding to those issues. But before we go, let me allow you to respond to these and perhaps give us your view on the stance of the government. The governor has said that there's no going back. They're going forward with the action of right sizing. But take a listen to part of the plight of the government of Kaduna State. It says that After paying salaries, there is just a meager amount left to run government. And what they are doing is the exercise will affect political appointees and civil servants in the public service of the state with personnel strength of less than 100,000. The government says they can no longer bear the burden of the personnel cost of these civil service, and that's the reason for right sizing. After paying salaries, it's just few millions that is left to run government. Are you thinking in that direction? And when the government says they are not going back, what's your reaction and where are you going from here?
Well, thank you very much. Let me also put the facts. Apart from the federation allocation that they receive monthly, which the amount is known to everybody, it has also been published recently what they receive as internally generated revenue, which is about 50.7 billion in the year 2020. Clearly speaking, they have enough resources. And let me say that when you look at the table of the internal general revenue, in the whole country, Kaduna State is first in the north and fourth in the entire nation. They don't have the highest workforce. I can tell you in evidence that one, even the nearest state to them, Katsina, has more staff than Kaduna. So basically, it's not about whether workers are a priority or not. It's about what they think is a priority. But what we are even saying, if you want to do that, follow the law. Before you disengage the workers, follow the law. No worker not want to die working. They want their benefit to be paid. If a worker have worked for 5 years, if a worker have worked for 10 years, if a worker have worked for 20 years, if you want to disengage him, follow the procedure and make sure that his benefit is ready. As you are giving him a letter of disengagement, you must also give him his check.
All right, we're out of time, Mr. Waba.
That's what we are saying.
All right,
we must emphasize what we are saying.
All right, so we're out of time.
What has happened in Kaduna should be responsible of Kaduna State government, not Labour.
So you are going ahead with the strike action? Are you going ahead with the protest?
Yes.
All right.
The protest is ongoing. And after this, we are looking at what the decision of the National Executive. Already, 5 of our unions have issued notice.
We need to go now. We are totally out of time. But I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Ayuba Waba, President of the Nigerian Labour Congress. And that's the side of the Labour. We hope to hear from the side of the Kaduna State government, perhaps tomorrow on this show. Don't go anywhere, everyone. So with Channel Television, I'm Sean Akimale. Bye-bye.